Welcome to Spiritual Dessert Trews, episode 42 for Russell Brand and other people. I am just coming from my brother's performance at the Lavoie Theater of The King and I. It was really great. So we had a blast, and it was their closing night, so everyone's kind of sad and crying because they really enjoyed performing, and, you know, that family's going to be not performing for a while, I guess, unless they find another performance. I don't know, The King and I. Well, we are still working on our spiritual nutrition from the book with St. Teresa. I brought it with me, even though I'm not in my usual place, so this should be interesting. All right. Still reading from the book, Story of a Soul, with St. Teresa. So we are on chapter 2. This should be very interesting. I wanted to broadcast something from bed, since this is a bedtime story. But I'm not in my bed. I'm at my parents' guest room. And this is very hard to tape. Long pause. Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is kind of rough. Because now I'm in the dark. I can remember clearly all that happened when Mother was ill, and especially her last weeks on Earth. Oh no. Celine and I felt quite lost. A friend used to come every morning to take us to her house for the day, and we left once without having time to say our prayers. And on the way, Celine whispered, do we have to tell her that we haven't said our prayers yet? Of course we must, I replied. So Celine, very shyly, told her about it when we arrived. You shall say them then, my dears, she replied, and putting us in large rooms, she left us to ourselves. Celine turned to me in astonishment, and I was surprised too. Mother's not like that. Ah, I exclaimed, she always says our prayers with us. We couldn't think of anyone else but Mother all day, though they couldn't think of anyone else but Mother all day. What? Poor Celine. I remember she was given a lovely apricot. She leaned toward me and whispered, let's not eat it. Let's save it for Mother. Oh, how sad. Darling Mother was far too ill to enjoy such earthly fruits. Only the blessedness of heaven could satisfy her now, where she would drink that mystic wine, which at the Last Supper Jesus said would share with us in his Father's kingdom, the moving ceremony of extreme unction. Extreme unction? Impressed me very much. This is like a juggling act. The performance was really great. My brother played the prime minister to the king, was like this really mean guy. And then the director had asked him to play it even meaner. We're not very mean people. But he was good. I was scared of him. It was amazing. Oh, man. Here we go. I remember just where I knelt. And I could feel Father. Oh, I could still hear Father weeping. The day after Mother died. He lifted me into his arms and said, here, my little one, kiss your darling Mother for the last time. Oh, silently I touched her cold forehead with my lips. I do not think I cried very much, and I told no one of all that was going on inside me. Without saying anything, I just watched and listened and saw a lot that they wanted to keep from me. On one occasion, I was all alone near the coffin, which was left standing on its end in the corridor, and I stood there, deep in thought, for ages. It was the first time I had seen one, but I knew what it meant well enough. As I was so little, I could not see all of it without raising my head. How big and gloomy the coffin seemed. 15 years later, I found myself in front of another coffin, this time of our saintly Mother Genevieve, and it all came back to me. It was the same Therese, but grown up now. And this coffin did not look big at all. That's because she was small. Oh, no. She did not have to raise her head save towards heaven, where all of her happiness was placed, experience having so matured her that nothing on earth could sadden her any more. the day the church blessed Mother Mortal's remains. God did not leave me quite an orphan. He let me choose another mother for myself. We were all together. I remember the five of us looking sadly at one another, and the nurse turned to Celine and me, deeply touched by our misery, and saying, "Poor darlings, you haven't got a mother anymore." And Celine threw herself at once into Marie's arms, saying, "Then you shall be my mother now." As always, I used to do the same as Celine. I might have followed her example in this, only I thought, you might be rather hurt and feel that you've been left out if you do not have a little daughter too. So I looked lovingly at you and buried my head into your breast, saying in my turn, "Pauline's going to be my mother." Oh, little Saint Teresa. Precious. It was now that I have mentioned that the second and the saddest stage of my life was about to begin. Oh. Especially after you, my second mother, entered Carmel. That's the nunnery. This period lasted from the time I was 4.5, until I was 14. It was only then that I got back the gaiety of my earlier days, though with it came a growing realization of the seriousness of my life. You remember, I'm very sure, how all of my gaiety went after Mother had died. I've been so lively and open now, and now I have become diffident and oversensitive, crying if anyone looked at me. I wanted to be left alone and hated meeting strangers. It was only in the intimacy of my own family, where everyone was wonderfully kind, that I could be myself. Father's heart, which was affectionate enough already, seemed to become infinitely loving, and both you and Marie were the kindest, most unselfish mothers to me. If God had not poured out his light so lavishly upon his little flower, she could never have become acclimatized to earth, for she would have been too frail to weather the rain and the storm. She had to have warmth and gentle dew in the soft rain and storm. She had to have breezes of spring, even in the winter of trial. These never failed her. It did not make me sad to leave. Like all children, I loved change and things out of the ordinary, so I enjoyed moving to Lisieux. That's how she became a saint. That's why she's known from Lisieux. I remember the journey well. We arrived at our uncle's house in the evening, and Jean and Marie and Aunt were standing at the door waiting for us. I was very much moved by all of the love they showed us. We were taken to Les Buissonnets, our new house, the next day, and it was in a quiet part of town. We're not far from the garden, Le Jardin d'Étoile, with its lovely flowered walks. I was quite charmed by the house, and my imagination was carried away by the distant view from the Belvedere, the trim gardens at the front of the house, and the large garden at the back. I love gardens. I have one. I go to work on it, though. It needs me. This lovely house was to be the setting for so many delightful times for all of us. Everywhere else, I felt lost, and I used to cry and miss Mother. But there my little heart opened out, and I could greet life with a smile. You were always there to kiss me awake, and I said my prayers kneeling beside you. Then you used to give me a reading lesson, like this one. The first word I could read by myself, I remember, was heaven. Oh, kiss, kiss, nighty night, pleasant dreams.